Welcome back. Here with us on Mirror Now, this is Urban Debate. 76 lawyers of the Supreme Court have written a letter to the Chief Justice of India drawing his attention to instances of hate speech and calls for ethnic cleansing made at two religious events in Delhi and Haridwar. Supreme Court lawyers have urged the Chief Justice to take suo motu cognizance, calling it a grave threat to the integrity and unity of the country and endangering lives of millions of religious minority. Signatories in the letter, Congress leader Salman Khurshid and advocate Prashant Bhushan earlier spoke to Mirror Now. And this evening, we are joined by Professor Jagdeep Joker, who is founder, Member Association for Democratic Reform. Sir, thank you very much for speaking with us here on Mirror Now. 76 Supreme Court lawyers in total have written to the Chief Justice of India. You've highlighted two events, one in Delhi, one in Haridwar. What exactly is it, sir, that you are demanding?
First of all, let me clarify that I have not signed the letter as a representative of the Association for Democratic Reforms. I have signed it in my personal capacity as a practicing lawyer in the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court of India. Number two, what this letter is about is that, as you and everybody else has seen, that there have been gatherings in Delhi at Jantar Mantar and in Haridwar over 2-3 days, where some absolutely, unacceptable public statements have been made, or statements have been made publicly, which violates several sections of the Indian Penal Code. And violating those sections of the Indian Penal Code done so publicly would normally, in the normal course, attract the attention of the law and the law enforcing machinery. In this case, or in these cases, that does not seem to have happened. So therefore, as lawyers and as what is technically as officers of the court, we 76 of us have felt that we need to bring it to the attention of the Honorable Chief Justice of India to take suo motu notice and direct appropriate action to be taken. So that's all there is to it. If there are things happening somewhere in the country which openly and publicly violate the law of the land, then I think it is incumbent on the highest court in the land to take cognizance of it and do something about it. That's what this letter is about.
But you know what is very interesting is that how 76 lawyers have come together. I want to understand what brought you all together. Why do you think it was needed for all of you to together approach the Chief Justice of India yourself? Why do you think these kind of speeches are being made? Because in your letter, you've also mentioned that recent speeches are a part of a series of similar speeches that have come across in the past as well. Any specific incident that you may be referring to here where no effective step was taken, which prompted this time all of you to come together?
Well, you have asked two specific questions. All of us have come together because we share this concern for the well-being of the society. There is nothing else in common with the 76 of us. As a matter of fact, all of us perhaps don't even know each other personally. I don't know some of them personally, but we all feel for it that this kind of blatant violation of the law and kind of things to do which have very serious implications of the social and cultural life of the country, and therefore impinge on the nation and the security and integrity of the nation, and which openly violate the law of the land at this scale, need to be taken cognizance of. I mean, it is possible that the Supreme Court would take cognizance of it even without this letter. But we felt that it is our responsibility as citizens or as concerned citizens and concerned legal kind of actors to remind the Supreme Court that here is something which has directly to do with the law of the land. And once the law of the land is violated or defied, and the law and order enforcement agencies, for whatever reason, are not able to or willing to or are not in a position to do something about it, then it is for the Supreme Court of India to step in and protect and enforce that the Constitution and the laws made thereunder are implemented in letter and spirit. That's why I think this letter has been written.
And so, why do you think? Okay, Professor, sir, why do you think that this would come within the ambit of the UAPA? The two instances that you are citing in the letter, sir.
There have been no. That is just a recommendation or a suggestion that such things have in the past been used to register cases against the Prevention of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA. And this is an unlawful activity. And there is also information that some similar activities planned in somewhere near Delhi, in Ghaziabad or somewhere in the next few days. And I believe some people have written to the police authorities in that area not to grant permission. Now, if these things start happening repeatedly, then it is a matter of serious concern to all concerned citizens and to law and order authorities who are constitutionally sworn and mandated to uphold the Constitution of India. And that is the reason why we have approached the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of India, which is the highest constitutional authority for this purpose.
Is lack of action emboldening some people who indulge in these kind of alleged hate speeches, or do you think they have tacit support?
I cannot say that. The fact is that as far as information available publicly is concerned, since this incident happened in Haridwar, it seems a case has been filed or registered against just one person, and who incidentally was a person who converted his religion recently. Now that seems strange because there are several people who made such speeches, not only in Haridwar and in several other places. So it seems very strange that one person is picked out and that person has a peculiar or a unique kind of background or history. So since no action seems to have been taken against most of the people who took part and who violated the law of the land, therefore a reminder to the Chief Justice of India.
Okay, last question, sir, before we let you go. You're showing solidarity, so that the state governments don't look away. Is that a clear message to the governments or the judiciary?
No, there is no message here. There is concerned citizens, particularly those who happen to be involved with the legal profession, the entire basis of the legal profession is upholding the Constitution of the country. So these are people who have come together for this reason. We just want the Supreme Court to be reminded that this is something where we think the Supreme Court ought to take suo motu action, because adequate action has not been forthcoming by the expected law enforcing machinery. That's all.
All right, Professor Chokar, appreciate you speaking with us here on Mirror Now and sharing with us your perspective. We'll see how the Chief Justice of India will now respond to the letter that has been written by 76 Supreme Court lawyers. In fact, earlier we spoke to Salman Khurshid and Dushyant Dave as well, who also are part of these 76 lawyers. Here's what they told us.
And I hope the Chief Justice will consider it and take action as is possible under the law. But that doesn't excuse the government from the government of Uttarakhand as well as the central government from doing their duty and fulfilling their obligation. This is not ordinary politics. This is in fact hitting out at the roots of our constitutional rule of law. And I think that this is a moment of crisis, and I hope that it is dealt with the sense of urgency that it requires.
There is a complete failure of rule of law, and this is something which is very serious. We are a democracy, we are a secular country, and we are supposedly governed by rule of law. We cannot tolerate, we cannot allow this. That's why some of us felt that enough is enough. We must bring it to the notice of the judiciary at the highest level, and therefore we have written the letter. It's for the Honorable Chief Justice to take cognizance. I mean, it's his decision. We have done our duty because we know that the police and the government administration have failed. You have seen, for example, Prime Minister Modi and Mr. Amit Shah have remained singularly silent. I mean, this is an occasion when both these top leaders should have condemned these kind of speeches publicly.
Let's now move on and talk about another big story of the day. The COVID vaccination for teenagers in the age group of 15 to 18 years is set to begin from 3rd of January. For such beneficiaries, the only vaccine option will be Covaxin. Beneficiaries can self-register online through their account on CoWIN. Let's straight away go across to my colleague Ayushman joining us on the broadcast for more on this big story. Ayushman, so the only vaccine that will be available to teenagers in the age group of 15 and 18 is going to be Covaxin?
Yes, perhaps this is the reason behind this is that the emergency use listing to this vaccine has been given by the DCGI, and also this vaccine has been tried and tested with the adult population. There is another vaccine which is world's first DNA vaccine, and which is not needle-based but applicator-based vaccine. That is Zydus Cadilla's vaccine ZyCoV-D. But that is not being currently given to any population in the country, any category of the population in the country. And it will be first introduced into adult population, and its production, it is a 3-dose vaccine. That's why currently it is being considered that given the short span of time that we have for the preparations, on 3rd, when we will see the start of this, the officials have told us that somewhere the vaccine which has got emergency use authorization from the subject expert committee and DCGI approval will be going ahead, and the Covaxin of Bharat Biotech, which is a vaccine which is made on whole virion based inactivated virus, will be given to children. It's a 2-dose vaccine which will be given in 4 to 6 week apart. A regimen is there, so this will be given to children, and this will be the only vaccine that would be administered in children right now.
All right. Appreciate you joining us with all of those details. So there's some good news coming for children in the age group of 15 to 18. The registration process is going to be beginning as well very, very soon. Let's now move on and talk about another big story of the day, and this is coming from the state of Uttar Pradesh, and the biggest cash seizure ever by Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs. Police have found money worth 194 crores in UP's Kanpur and Kannauj. Searches were conducted at the residential and factory premises of businessman Piyush Jain, who was taken into custody on 25th. And today, in fact, we got an update as well from the department. Let's straight away go across to my colleague Bhavtosh joining us on the broadcast this evening. Bhavtosh, give us more details about the seizure that has taken place as far as unaccounted cash is concerned. It's quite a heavy amount that we are talking about.
Probably the biggest cash seizure that has taken place in recent times. According to GST intelligence, it's the biggest cash seizure in the country. Now, there is already multiple probe agencies that have started investigating this case. DRI has already sent a team to Kanpur, primarily because the gold bars that have been seized include foreign marking. 23 kilograms of gold has been seized from the raids that have been carried out in Kanpur as well as in Kannauj. 600 kilograms of sandalwood oil have already been recovered from the houses of Piyush Jain. Piyush Jain's statement was recorded under Section 32 of GST Act. According to GST intelligence, he has admitted that all the cash that have been seized from Kannauj as well as from Kanpur belongs to him, and that he has hoarded this cash primarily because he was trying to save from GST. But this argument of his is not being brought by anyone, whether it's from GST officials or from ED, primarily because they suspect that he was in fact and he was in fact helping other businessmen of the area. ED has said that they are looking at the money laundering aspect of this case, and they will soon file a case of money laundering. Being a secondary agency, they could take help of UP police, asking them to file a case of cheating and forgery and that of criminal conspiracy.
Okay, stay with us, Bhavtosh. Let me go across to Priyank Tripathi as well. Priyank, so ED will be looking at the money laundering aspect. DRI will be roped in as well because the gold that has been, in fact, seized, about 23 odd kgs, some had foreign marking. Now, I believe the cash was hidden behind walls.
Yes, and certainly, Hina, not even that. There was a particular area which was made with strays and all, and that was working as a makeshift bank. Hina, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hina? Yeah, what I was trying to say that this particular house of Mr. Jain was not even working as a safe house for him, but also a makeshift bank, which clearly implies that he had made this kind of a huge area just behind his bedroom, which had stairs and all, which was supposed to keep not even 160 or 200 crores of rupees, but that could have hidden much more than the quality which has been seized. So what the agencies are suspecting that he was on a continuous basis rotating this particular cash. But the big question which is coming out after all these political statements which is coming out from the current government in place in the state of Uttar Pradesh, like Yogi Adityanath, he was hitting out on Akhilesh Yadav and Mayawati by saying that whatever has been done in the past was also having implication right now, but also on the present government. So the big question which will certainly remain looking at the upcoming elections in Uttar Pradesh, that who were the custodians of this kind of huge money, whether Piyush Jain was working for himself or for someone else. Because over the period of last 20 years, this is what we have got to know from local sources, that he was riding his own scooter. He was not having fancy cars or wearing fancy clothes so that he can be identified. So that is a particular trait of a person who was dealing in illicit money or hawala transaction. So that is a matter for investigation for the officers.
Right, Priyank, stay with us. And Bhavtosh, like Priyank was mentioning, it was like a virtual bank that was operating in the house there, a bank without RBI's approval. Now, can you tell us what more has come? Because even after this statement by the authorities, the raids were still going on in Kannauj. As we speak, are they still underway?
Well, searches are still going on. The last statement that was issued by GST intelligence was at around 6 p.m. They have said they are still tabulating the cash that has been seized. Apart from that, they have also seized large amount of gold. They have said that the gold had foreign marking. Who is the person who has handed over this gold to Piyush Jain is something that investigating agencies are still trying to unearth. And that could be possibly the reason, Hina, that DRI has been roped in now. DRI team would be reaching Kanpur maybe by tomorrow and will be questioning Piyush Jain. Now, Piyush Jain has been sent to judicial custody. They might move a production warrant in the concerned court and seeking his custody. Importantly, apart from Enforcement Directorate, we can see income tax also moving into this case because of the very fact that such a huge amount of cash has been seized. As Priyank was rightly saying that at least from his demeanor, it doesn't look that he was a very big businessman. But his statement to GST clearly shows that he has claimed that entire cash that has been seized belongs to him. He has also said that he had, in fact, sold his ancestral jewelry, that money belongs to him. And once you deduct that tax, he should be returned that money. The fact that such huge amount of cash belongs to him, also that jewelry has been seized from him, it requires a multi-probe agency investigation, and it could be possible that other agencies will be coming to Kanpur in next few days.
All right. Appreciate you joining us, Bhavtosh, as well as Priyank, with all the latest updates. We'll, of course, be tracking the story very, very closely with you ahead as well. Heading into a short break. Thank you very much for staying with us here on Urban Debate.